Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Omasha. Since our apologies are coming slightly behind schedule, we have to put everything in place for you to have at least a near perfect show. Today, it is all about the COVID-19 restriction protests. Yes, in various parts of the world, you get here by the Canadians coming out to protest. The truck drivers came out to block the road. And of course, due to court judgment, they had to diffuse, just disperse and all that. New Zealand also carried out their own protest, citing the courage of the truck drivers in Canada. And they are saying enough of all these restrictions. Even if we go to the UK, they were like, my protest, pockets of protest, but the law was on the ground that gatherings should be, done away with, should not be encouraged, only to find out that the Prime Minister had a series of parties, and that is the hot water he's in right now. But we are focusing on the protests across the world because of the restrictions occasioned by COVID-19. Why are citizens in some cities of the world protesting? I mean, we're talking about COVID-19 here. Are they seeing what we're not seeing? Are they feeling what we're not feeling? What do you think is the implication of all these protests in the fight against COVID-19? With me here in the studio, he was one time Vice Chairman of Igor Local Government, one-time Acting Chairman of Igor Local Government. He's a politician, political analyst, and of course, political affairs commentator, both local and international politics. It's well granted me to welcome Honorable Desmond Ugbo. Welcome to International Forum.
Good afternoon, Wilson.
Appreciate your coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You've already seen the next man sitting close to Honorable Desmond Ugbo. He is a clergyman, a political analyst, political affairs commentator, and of course, he's a lecturer in Uniben in the College of Medicine, Medical Sciences. Yes, Medical Sciences. I hope one day I'll get that right.
I will inject to know it.
Welcome, Honorable Frank Amego.
Thank you so very much.
Coming.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Honorable Desmond Ugbo, these protests that some cities in the world are embarking on, we heard about what happened in Ontario, Canada. Yeah. What about what happened in New Zealand? Pockets of protests also in the UK and some parts of Germany, talking about they are sick and tired of these restrictions. How come these citizens are becoming restive, so to speak?
Well, thank you very much. The global pandemic has really affected a lot of people in terms of their daily endeavors. And one begins to ask if the global pandemic has not really dealt a very big blow on the economy of the respective countries that are currently now protesting today. Even in their individual quest to make ends meet, they have also been seriously affected. Take note that the way and manner countries are restricting the influx of tourists as well as movement of citizens. I mean, involving measures by way of regulating the movement, the gatherings, and every other activities that borders on people coming together in order to avoid the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. All these restrictions were in order ab initio. But if you look at the time since 2020 till date, one will begin to ask what will be the way forward. If, for example, Canada, Canada and US have a common boundary. Particularly the major and the busiest route is where these truckers have laid siege on, preventing the influx of people from Canada to US and from US to Canada. And what really gave birth to this protest in Canada, because it all sprang off from Canada, where the truck drivers were asked to present their vaccine mandate, just like when Edo State government the other time was asking workers of state government to present their green card before they can have access to their respective place of work. The same manner, countries of the world are also giving different regulation in order to ensure that the spread is curtailed to some extent. And that was how the truck drivers were asked to present their vaccine mandate before they could cross to US. And if they refuse to present and they go to US and they come back, they will be asked to quarantine for some days before they can have access to public facilities. All these were measures put in place by government of Canada and indeed that of the United States of America in order to curtail the spread of coronavirus. But the way and manner they are now going about it, and from the statistics recorded, it is obvious that even 90% of the population of Canada has gotten the first and second dose of the coronavirus, COVID-19 vaccine. And what they are seriously protesting against is that it's becoming a kind of a coercion rather than a concession. People are now being coerced to go and get vaccine. It's like the other time when we were in the studio here and we said that vaccine should be a matter of choice and not by forcing people to take vaccine. Exactly what they are now up to there now. Telling the government that it's a thing of choice. You don't force us to get vaccinated. Because the truck driver, yes, they are strongly in unison in fighting for their rights. And by so doing, they decide to use what they have by way of using their truck to block the major entrance into those areas they feel that can draw the attention of the government to their plight. And also devise another means by hooking holes in major streets, a situation where the Supreme Court judge were forced to grant an injunction restraining the use of horn in some strategic places. Mind you that it is the local authorities that are giving this restriction order by way of asking them to present a vaccine card or pass or whatever name they call it. It is not the federal government. But there is this law in place that the federal government has made it compulsory for every citizen to go and get their vaccination. By so doing, it will reduce the spread of COVID-19. It is for the betterment of the citizen. It is for the health need of the citizen. Right. It is not targeted at the truck drivers ab initio. Okay. But the way and manner they are now being asked to present this mandate at the border between US and Canada. And also in restaurants, they are also demanded to present their card. Right. And also with their access to sport events and so many other places. Okay. All these are reasons why the movement just snowballed into a protest of sort.
All right, I will come back to you, Honorable. Well, Honorable Frankie, you heard them. They gave a foundation to this discussion, talked about the severity, so to speak. He used the word coercion, used the word force for presentation of this card. I mean, what do you feel about this protest? Was it really called for?
Yes, personally, I don't think they would have gone this far in the protests. Ordinarily, they have the right to protest. On my own, I see it from two angles. Up to now, a lot of persons, not necessarily in Nigeria, in some other parts of the world, they have not come to terms of the reality of the COVID-19 challenge. So that's on one leg. On the other leg, a lot of persons have not even believed in the efficacy of the vaccine. So these two things put together, then the third one entered. You must get vaccinated. First, you don't really believe that in the existence or no existence. That's on one side. It's not for us to pass judgment. You have the right to believe or not to believe. Secondly, suddenly the vaccine came up, the fastest so far in the world. So they are saying we don't believe in the efficacy of that vaccine. They are not done with that. Now you must compulsorily, as a various governments, not only in Canada, various governments, especially in Europe, the WHO has alerted that there will be an increasing rate of infection, that in Europe they should tighten up their belts there should be more restrictions. Of course, the whole thing snowballed into some other European countries. But back to Canada, is the Ottawa part of it, the capital of Canada, that was worst hit now. And the nature of your business demands that you should have a card. Then you should have. If you need to change your job not to have, then change your job. As he said earlier on, that the Edo State government said you must have the green card to get into government offices. If you're a private business person, nobody's going to challenge you on that. But now you're going to move from Canada to US, and it's a requirement for you to cross that border. Maybe the first few days they were right, but later on the protest was becoming unbearable. Initially I supported the protest that, okay, it's a way to exercise your freedom. You could say yes or no to any system or policy. But now you need to come to terms with the reality on ground. Canada, US, and some other developed countries of the world, if they have any challenge, is it the underdeveloped, less developed countries that will not come to their aid? So it's better for them to be on their guard. The stricter the policy, the better. Because if anything goes wrong there, they can't get help elsewhere. Because I saw on the screen before this program that a wise man will not put all his eggs in one basket. So developed countries are having several baskets. COVID-19 is forcing them to put them in one basket. They said, no, wisdom demands in this sense that we should spread our eggs by creating stricter measures. I'm sure that was what they tried doing. But in India, at the time, they had the farmers had a problem with their government in India, and the Prime Minister of Canada tried to intervene, like in support of the farmers against the government, that they had the right to protest. Exactly. But now the Indian government is saying you're having a double standard. You said we could protest in India, but now you are barring your people in Canada from protesting. The same thing, our Minister of Information and Culture also shot at the Prime Minister of Canada that he was using a double standard. But I'm of the opinion that there was no double standard. What happened between the Indian government and the farmers are not to do it between life and death like that. And what happened in Nigeria, the NSAS, the 20th of October 2020, is different from what is happening in Canada. So you cannot say they shouldn't protest in Canada. You are protecting lives. But now the Nigerian persons, or a large number of them, are saying that you were creating a policy in Nigeria that were kind of dehumanizing. The SARS itself was just a cover-up. No to bad governance, no to bad roads, no to bad infrastructures. So they are not even related. Right. If you look at what the Canadian government did, it did not import people, as we did in Nigeria, brought people from Abuja and other parts of the country to go and create problems. No, that's not happened.
These are put my foot down.
My own feet are down too.
These are put my foot down.
Everyone's feet are down too.
Hold on right now.
Let me land now.
Go ahead.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say, they are not related.
Okay.
To say Prime Minister of Canada supported the NSAS protest. Now is preventing his own people from protesting. They are two different things.
All right. I will come back to you, Honorable. Well, Honorable Desmond, you heard him. Yeah. Now, he now talked about the backlash of, the government of the day in Canada telling people to stop protesting. Other countries of the world are telling them that they had a double standard in our own climate. Told us to protest, and now your own area, you're telling them not to protest. Is protest not protest? Don't they have the right to protest?
Let me tell you, yes. These people, by law, they have the right to protest. Don't look at the political languages that the Prime Minister might use at a time. Take note that this protestation is entering the third week, and the message must have been passed to the government before now. And government has also roll out pronouncements and measure as to when to ease these restrictions. By 17th of this month, the ones that has to do with compulsory vaccination will phase out. By 7th of March, the use of vaccine mandate will also phase out. All these are measures that the government has put in place. But note also that it appears that some people who doesn't like the face of justice are now beginning to crop in to take undue advantage of this protest. A situation where even those in the far right are supportive. Funds have started being raised. You heard this GoFundMe, or the one they call, I don't know the name of the second one now. They have raised about $8.4 million in support of those who are protesting. You see, they have arrested people with guns. They want to hijack the protest. Yes, what the truckers are protesting over is that the government should respect their right of choice to either get vaccinated or otherwise. But the making of such vaccination a compulsion is what they are protesting over. Ordinarily, if you are asked to go for vaccination, it is for your own health, it's for safety. It's just like when the state government the other day was almost forcing everybody to go and get inoculated. I waited until the whole saga subsided before I went for the first and second jab. So it has to come from my own choice, from my own mind, not you coercing me to do that. Because if that is not followed, you are now infringing on my own fundamental human right. Because I have the right to say yes or no. But look also that the way and manner justice double standard in the whole issue is something of politics. Recall when he was giving his statement, when he made pronouncement regarding the invoking of Emergency Act that was passed into law in 1988. He mentioned that he has consulted with his party men, he has consulted with his caucus, he has also consulted with opposition. Recall too, even the opposition have made pronouncement asking those who are protesting to go home. It appears, yes, you have made your point. You've passed the necessary information across. They allow the government to do the needful. It's only when the government refuses to do the needful, even the opposition can take it over and begin to criticize government on that regard. But let me tell you this, that in Canada, what you have just seen happening in Canada that now become a wide Harmattan fire which spread across the European country will continue to spread. The reason is because different countries have their own restriction orders, restriction measure, and to some is very draconian, to some it has civil face, to some is more of a military decree. So until they meet at the World Health Organization Summit to make sure that this does not degenerate into the Second World War or a situation where hoodlums were jacked, opposition of every government in different countries were jacked, and it become so pathetic.
All right, now he talked about hijacking the protest, so to speak, after the president came to say, look, we are with you. You've made your point. Please, you have to defuse all of this protest. Does it mean that this protest is now picking up a face of politics? Is it politically induced, or it has something to do with the manner with which the government of the day chooses to place the restriction ban?
Yeah, there's a bit of politics. More so, any government now, most parts of the world, is kind of democratic. And Canada is not excluded from that democratic process. And it's possible, unlike in Nigeria, the slightest provocation or reaction, you say, is politically motivated. And that's not necessarily the case in Canada.
All right, now you just sort of want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is International Forum. We're taking a look at various protests in the globe against restrictions occasioned by COVID-19. We're taking a look at the Canadian experience and, of course, the New Zealand experience. I say they drew inspiration from what the truck drivers did in Canada. Can you beat that? I have two distinguished gentlemen here in the studio. I have Honorable Desmond Dugbo and, of course, Honorable Frank Amigo. Honorable Frank, we're with you. We're talking about the protests being politically motivated and has a political face. Take it up from that.
No, ab initio, it wasn't political.
Okay.
Because it was for the common good of every citizen of Canada. And if there is a health challenge in this regard now, and you don't want to keep to the rules laid down about restrictions and all that, it's like suicide. And there's no sane government in the world that will allow any of its citizens to commit suicide. If you are caught in a suicide attempt, I'm sure you're a lawyer, I think there's a provision, you can even be arrested. So the government of Canada will see it as kind of a suicide attempt by the truckers to deliberately refuse to get vaccinated. More so with the outcomes of results, cases, daily reports of how the COVID-19 is devastating a lot of lives. And for the government of Canada to assent to that restriction shows that it has the lives of people living in Canada at that. So what the truckers did in a few days would have been tenable, but now they are taking it too far. Now we're going to suspend some bits of politics or try to have a showdown with the government. Whatever protest you would have had in mind, at that point, the government would have known. And the best way to protest is to have a kind of a document, a paper to express your grievances. You submit it. You can go on a peaceful protest, go around some major towns and cities, then you submit a report. A, B, C, the reasons why we are protesting. We feel that all these challenges will go if we apply X, Y, Z. So now, ceaselessly, they have remained on the streets of Ottawa, and other people want to do their businesses. Your truck business is personal. You want to move your goods and services from Canada to US, and they gave you the rules. You said no. What about other persons that would have gone around? If you check the screen, the PD post on the screen, you will observe that there are total blockades, like a siege. That's a siege in itself. You don't go out, you can't come in. So why create that for ourselves? We don't want you to die of this pandemic. It may not be so widespread spread in other parts of the world, but we know our peculiarities. Let's fight it in this particular way. They have legislative arm. The legislative arm even had to pass a bill to pass into law that there should be restriction. So that tells you those that were representing you, and they are still representing you, are on the side of the Prime Minister, because they have weighed both sides of the divide to now come to a compromise that these restrictions must be strictly adhered to. I'm sure anywhere in the world, any restriction is not forever. It's just for you to cope for a little bit. Cope for a while, after which the fire that is on the mountain will subside. As you rightly said, about the 17th of March 2022, there will be little or no challenge anymore, whereby a lot of persons would have been vaccinated, but a lot of persons would have understood fully how to avoid contracting this COVID-19 challenge. So what I think the Canadian government will do now is to also shift its ground to allow peace to reign. They say live and let live. Since the truckers have refused, and before you know it, the opposition were even keen to it and create more mayhem. And it was on record for us to understand and to know that in some parts of Europe, there has been violence, shootings here and there, breaking into stores. And you know, now you realize that it's not just the restriction that's the cause of the problem. The other things they want to perpetrate, they were just hiding under the restrictions made by the various governments of like Europe, for instance, in Austria, in Belgium, all of that. they have such challenges, and to me it's uncalled for. If you have a set of rules you cannot comply with, you go for plan B. If we are told we cannot enter this studio except and unless we put on our face masks, and even with this distancing, which is okay, and we should put on our face masks, I'm not comfortable, I won't accept this invitation. But if I accept the invitation, I should accept the rules. You want to move your goods and services from Canada to US, they said you must comply with the green card, so to speak, the vaccination card, and you don't like it. Park your truck until the coast is clear, then you can embark on your business.
So you want them to starve?
Yes.
You want them to starve?
They won't starve.
I'll come back
the policy in Canada, nobody's going to starve.
I'll come back to you on that. Now, for what the complaints were was like, look, you are restricting our business and you're making it mandatory vis-a-vis forcing us to go take the COVID-19 vaccine. It ought to be by choice. Now, you said you have to wait from now till March before all these restrictions will be removed. Now, what should they be doing before then? Because this is their source of livelihood.
We see.
Yeah.
Remember that these truckers, over 90% are vaccinated. Over 90%. Because they know they are dealing with another country. It's intercontinental, international kind of movement. If it is within Canada, no problem. Don't bring your problem to our side. Don't bring it to our country. That is where the problem lies. And if you don't want to go, then you go and park your truck and choose another means of livelihood. If you are coming into, you see...
But according to them, that's what they know.
Yes.
So you say they should stop?
Many of them are complying. They just want to drone these complaints to the hearing of both Canada and US. Yes. These truckers, are you aware that Ford is complaining that the protest has affected their business? Especially those who are dealing in parts and agriculture. Well, they depend largely on this international trade of a thing. You know, comparative kind of trade ensure that what you don't have, I have it. What the same manner that this protest is affecting US, so also it is affecting Canada, because there is what they call a kind of trade by barter. But this time, what you don't have, you bring it here. What I don't have, I take it there. Comparative kind of trade. But let me tell you this, that it is hard time these truckers go quietly home, because even Justin has...
They should go quietly home.
Yes. This, okay. The president has called them minority, because they believe that it is mainly these truckers that started the movement, where they were blocking the major street, particularly Ambassador Bridge, which is the busiest land borders between US and Canada. And gradually, they begin to see even little children on top of their truck, which made it very impossible for the police to take drastic action. But the way it is now that the president, the prime minister has made pronouncement invoking emergency, the first thing they did is to obtain a court injunction, restraining them for 10 days. Because they were now using all sort of noise pollution
the rest of them,
to make sure that they make even the government and every other business premises uncomfortable for those who are doing it. So, and that is enough. They've done their best, but the way and manner other countries are now copying, like what they call the copycats, the copycat countries, are now borrowing a leaf from what is happening in Canada. So as their government and their own country should also borrow a leaf and regulate those restrictions to make life easy for the people, because it is not really being easy for these people.
All right. Now, you talked about other countries, vis-a-vis New Zealand and some other top countries or cities in the world. They are doing the same thing. If one person chooses to start a fire, the other person chooses to take, or let's say, burn from the fire and lit it elsewhere, I don't think that they have a cause they are pursuing do not force us to take this vaccine. You are choking us. You're choking us of livelihood. You're making life unbearable for us because you want to coerce us. You want to, push us, giving us no choice other than to take the vaccine.
Well, it's far from what you just said now. You know, as we say it in Pidgin English, Jagudage master. So all of these persons coming out now, and as he also posited now, that to surprise you that a lot of them have been vaccinated. Just go there and create problems. Create problems, protest, and one thing that should come back to our consciousness immediately is the funding. We have this money, go and protest. If there was no funding, protest would have been difficult. So there are some persons set aside to create problems for a given nation. Nigeria is not an exception. Because they are just there to create problems. So just block the road, your feeding will be provided, everything will be provided, and your account will get alert.
Like sponsors?
Yes, they are sponsors of it. So what the government of Canada is trying to do now is to cut off those kind of sponsorship. Cut them off, cut off what is making them survive, like food and other things. And before you know it, those persons will suspend that. So what other countries in Europe do especially?
Hold on, those suspended to go and get vaccinated?
No, to leave the streets.
Quietly go and
yes, they are
source of livelihood.
It's not a source of livelihood. If you check, a lot of them have been vaccinated.
Exactly.
Okay, you get $100 every day on your normal trip. Now I don't like the face of this government. I'll give you $500 every week instead of your $100. You choose between the two of them. 500, I'll just stand there, block the road. 100, I have to take a risk. So these persons are being sponsored. If they are not sponsored, why the funding? So if it's spreading to other parts of Europe, I pity Europe especially, because the way the COVID-19 is spreading in Europe, that for World Health, not a European Health Organization, World Health Organization to say that we are worried that stricter measures be put in place. And Europe is now copying Canada. Canada is safer than Europe in terms of the outbreak of COVID-19. And the palliatives that go in Canada actually outweigh that of Europe. Canada has a lot of measures in place. Like for the period that they had this challenge, where there are instances where there was a kind of a total lockdown, where people not surviving, where the truckers not at home, where they're not surviving. So they are getting funding from, if you allow me, some unscrupulous personalities to perpetrate this mayhem. I call it mayhem because you are creating problems not just for the government of your country, other persons that would have gone about with their daily livelihood. You have blocked all of that. If you are having a protest, go to the government house. Go to the government house, go to the assembly, the legislative part, go to some key offices, carry a placard, peacefully demonstrate, then go back home. Now, your protest now is against your fellow citizens. The government is not really bothered, just that they will need to make a statement. The Prime Minister of Canada is not personally bothered. But there are some persons whose businesses have been brought to a standstill. These are the persons that the government of the day is saying, clear off the streets and let people go about their lawful businesses. You are saying no, they want to go to US. Is US the only country you can go to? Your truck can go to other countries of the world. But why Canada to US alone, that if you don't allow us to go to US, then the heaven should fall? Heaven will not fall. So that's the challenge we're having. They have been funded.
They've been funded?
Yes.
Do you agree to that they've been funded? Because don't forget that the protesters in New Zealand are saying that they are drawing inspiration from the truckers.
The inspiration is
in Canada.
I told you earlier that $8.4 million has been raised. And from Justin Trudeau's statement this morning or yesterday evening, he said they are tracking those who are financing these protesters with a view to freezing their accounts, those who are linked with this protest. they will freeze their account without recourse to court order. They don't even need to go to court and obtain an order. Quietly, once you are caught, they will freeze your account. But it has to be temporarily, pending when this hula baloo will subside. For those who have taken advantage of the protest, I mean those in far right, those in opposition, those, Trudeau's have been in government since 2013.
13 years.
And that, very soon they will change government or election will be held. People want to bring him down. They want to create impression that the man is autocratic, is anti-people by his policies and programs. They are now forgetting that these measures were made to safeguard the health of citizens. Vaccination is good, but the regulation should have human face in such a manner that it will not bring more harm than good. This protest is bringing more harm than good. The usefulness is no longer there. Yes, a lot of people have been affected by these strict measures. Sometimes we in Africa, we cannot compare the restriction, the total lockdown that we held them applying. There were a lot of measures by way of palliative to cushion the effects, because even the citizens, the statistics is with the government. Those that are working, they have a way they were being remunerated. Even the citizens, they were being taken care of, unlike Africans, particularly in Nigeria. So if in such climate, people are now beginning to copy what is happening in Canada, especially those in Europe. Note also, the reason why in Belgium, they are planning a protest as at that yesterday.
Yeah.
In France,
the same thing also, they're planning protest, yes.
Are you also aware that Charles just been infected the second time with coronavirus? Because he attended party and all that. This is United Kingdom. Sometimes those who make law will become the breakers of the law.
All right.
So in such claim, we that are onlookers, those that are watching it from, we should learn a great lesson. Because what is happening in New Zealand, by way of the restrictions and all those measures, we also done in other countries. It is now that countries of the world are beginning to relax and ease those restrictions as regard this COVID-19.
All right.
Gradually, they will ease it, and the world will bounce back to its feet once again.
Now, what do you think is behind this protest, apart from, sponsors wanting to, rubbish the government or the prime minister, but now how France planning that protest, Belgium planning, New Zealand on it? It's like almost major cities in the world want to stage a protest. Do you think that the restriction ban is too severe?
I don't think so. It's just like recently, the 35th summit or conference of the AU in Ethiopia, that they were to discuss nutrition. Later on, they went into coup and all that. We're trying to find out why coup was not contagious, majorly in West African sub-region and other parts. Yeah. So it's like in science, there's what called law of mass action. People are moving towards the right. You don't know why. So you obey the law of mass action, you are just moving. So if Canada and some persons decide to protest, that's not for you to join the protest. You don't know why they're actually protesting. Somebody maybe sponsoring them, a group of persons sponsoring them, and asks you in another part of Europe, would you want to join? You say, yes, this is what you're going to get in pounds or in euro. And you say, why not? If for the sake of the money, I will join. Canada has a lot of palliatives for its citizens than other parts of the world. They are more people-friendly than even the US. They have better policies in Canada than the US. I know for sure. So if there's that level of protest in Canada, it's not enough for you to now join. Because after you have devastated the few infrastructures that you have, your government will be able to meet up with the repairs of those things anymore. So if Canada is doing that, that does not mean you should do it. You should have a sense of direction. You should have be a people that can think by yourself. That they did it in Canada, then you should now do it. The platform upon which they did it in Canada, you don't have it. Like the Prime Minister had to seek for a court injunction. The legislative arm had to pass into law. But if such a thing should happen in Nigeria, there is no court injunction. The government takes an action.
Action before taking the next.
In other parts of Europe, they take action. They don't wait for any democratic process. So you know where you are from. You know your background. I also saw on the screen before this program that if you are a woman that is backing a child, don't join to throw stones. You know the peculiarity of your climb. You tread in a soft way that will not kind of create more challenges. So if Canada does it, they are still doing it, allow them. The restrictions they have placed on them on a large scale is for the betterment of the people of Canada. If you're having challenges in Belgium, in Croatia, in other parts of the world, you go back to your government. But don't just copy and paste. If you need to copy, you modify before you paste, if at all you need to paste. But what is happening in other parts of Europe now, I feel sorry for them. Because very soon, America will wade into this challenge and might even say, okay, if the truckers are insisting they want to come to our own country, US, let them come. So the protest will be no more. So what happens in other parts of Europe? They'll be embarrassed. So they are having a challenge in their home now. Does not mean you want to look for troubles. What do you look for? Technology. China has this technology. How do we get this technology in Belgium? So I'm looking for protests. And like, to me, it's childish. You're looking for where they are protesting to copy from. Please, can you give me 5 pages of the protest, that first module of protest? They'll not send to you, you now start to rehearse it. There are other things to emulate from other countries. Instead of looking for protest, they look for ways to fund it. The people funding it, I think, is in our climate, it's a money miss road. There are a lot of things you could plunge your money or resources into. Why don't you bring that money to research in your various countries? Let's find out whether there is COVID-19 or not. You put your money. Oh, there is COVID-19. Okay, let's look for vaccine. Let's check the efficacy of this vaccine they want to force on us. If at the end of the day they discover that it is efficacious, oh, well and good, then that's how a better way to spend your money. That will gather some persons together to begin to protest. That does not mean for the good of any country. All right. on a large scale.
All right. Right now, the world, they are watching Canada, they are watching New Zealand, they are watching France, watching Germany, watching all these top countries that want to make a decision in 1 minute each because our time is up. What advice do you have for these countries, Honorable Desmond?
They should copy what is good. Copy better things, not these destructive elements. Because what you are copying now, your country laws might be more stricter in dealing with you. Because as it is today, the Belgians have put measures in place to arrest those who might protest. France are also making arrangements for theirs. Germany are also doing the same. And even in Australia, they are also dealing with their own. Over 1,000 people have been arrested. In New Zealand, you know how many people that have been arrested. So, different folk with different strokes. Right. You don't know what the country of Canada has in place. Look at the pronouncement, the statement of the Prime Minister. He said there will be no need to deploy military. He has given the police more powers to deal with protesters. So take things that are positive into copy, not those negative copy.
Thank you.
Office.
Thank you so much, Honorable Desmond. Honorable Frank Amego, you have 1 minute to call it.
Yes, or even less. I'll just say 2 things in one. You don't say because an American child told his father, don't be crazy. You now come to Benin and tell your father, don't be crazy. There are 2 different implications.
Of course.
Oh, they use cutleries in developed countries. Now you are from Oroboland, for instance. What do you use cutleries on starch and banga? You'll be wasting your time. So there are better things to copy instead of copying protests. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I like that last part. Don't be crazy, don't be silly. Tell us what anyway. That story is for another day. I appreciate the wonderful analysis. Well, you've heard them copy the right thing. But apart from sponsors, are there any other things these protesters are targeting? Is it not connected to the rumors that are hearing about the efficacy of the vaccine? We don't know, but let's see how all this will pan out. I'll just report back to you so I can get to know what is happening globally on International Forum. Thank you so much for spending part of your time with us. Bye for now.